Hello, and welcome to episode 93 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
Yeah, hey, we had a really big storm just a little while ago here.
We did. You could tell because Carl was under the couch.
Yes, our cat Carl. He's like our local weatherman.
He is.
Even if it looks like it's going to rain, Carl will look up to the sky, which is really the ceiling.
Yes.
Look out the window, inch his way towards the couch, and crawl underneath it.
It's the cutest thing.
It really is. He was outside for a long time before he was rescued and adopted by us. And I think he's still afraid he's going to get wet.
It's adorable and amazing. And I love watching him. And it's the greatest thing to then, a little bit later, see him inch his way out, nose first, from under the couch.
Yeah.
And then we say, "Oh, hey, Carl, is the rain over?" And as soon as the rain's over, he comes right back out.
Yeah.
It's like he's got his own little barometric pressure reading.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So yes, we have a little weatherman Carl.
Yeah, he can sense when a storm is coming. It's so funny. Yeah, so there was that. I mean, we needed this rain, but
We did very
whatever.
much so.
Yeah. Last week, we forgot to talk about Father's Day. We went to my sister's, and she made us all kinds of really yummy vegan food.
Yes, we did forget. And that's probably just because we were talking about so many other things last week. But yes, so we did. We had a beautiful Father's Day extravaganza.
Yeah, she made
Linda.
grilled Beyond Burgers and corn on the cob and vegan
corn on
potato
the cob.
salad. We picked up stuff to make a big green salad, so we made that. Yeah, and a good time was had by all.
It was.
Yeah, I had too many beers.
You did.
And it wasn't like I had a lot of beers. I got this beer when we were at Wegmans that sounded so good. It was a hazelnut stout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that sounds delicious. But it was 10.2% alcohol or something like that.
Yes.
So I got a little tipsy.
You got beyond tipsy. It was beyond tipsy. And yes, we all had a conversation about how tipsy you were. And what I really think is funny, though, is that a week before we had been at Mad Meg's with the family, and you ordered a beer that was 10.5% alcohol, and it came in these little
tiny cups,
almost like brandy snifter, but smaller type cups. Yeah. And you had two of them. Yeah. You only had two of them because they were 10.5% alcohol.
Yeah, but
yeah, and yeah. And so what you had last week,
I had 4 beers.
You had 4 full beers, and the beers that they were giving you at Mad Max were only 4 ounces.
Yeah, it was like
each.
half of a bottle.
Yeah, so you had the equivalent. You had 12 times.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Okay, math aside, I had too many beers.
Yes.
And wow, I guess you got to do that every once in a while to remind yourself why you don't. I mean, I was fine
That's
the next
fair.
day and everything, but
yes, you were. I was surprised. I was waiting for you to not be in the greatest of condition the next day.
I was fine. I just don't know why the most delicious porters and stouts are usually really high in alcohol content.
I have no answer to give you.
Yeah. Anywho, that was that. We had a really good time, and I had apparently an exceptionally good time, and the food was fantastic. And thanks to my sister,
yes,
because that was a fun day.
And so, happy Father's Day to all.
Yeah. Hey, you want to talk about this fruit recall that's going on?
Yeah, and to be completely honest, I have not been up on my news recently, and so this is the first that I've heard of it.
Yeah,
is when you sent this to me.
Yeah, there is the FDA has issued a frozen fruit recall.
Yes. So this coming from the FDA, and this announcement coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 21st, so just a few days ago, SunOpta Inc.'s subsidiary, Sunrise Growers Inc., has issued a voluntary recall of specific frozen fruit products linked to pineapple provided by a third-party supplier due to the potential for these products to be contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes.
Yeah, Listeria is no joke.
No, Listeria is no joke. So Listeria monocytogenes is an organism, which can cause serious and sometimes fatal infections in young children, frail or elderly people, and others with weakened immune systems. Although healthy individuals may suffer only short-term symptoms such as high fever, severe headache, stiffness, nausea, abdominal pain, and diarrhea, Listeria infection can cause miscarriages and stillbirths among pregnant women. Any consumers concerned about an illness should contact a physician. So products were distributed via the following retailers. At Walmart, we are looking at the Great Value Mixed Fruit, the Great Value Dark Sweet Cherries, and Great Value Mango Chunks from January 19th, 2023 to June 13th, 2023.
Yeah, so check your freezers for those. So yeah, and also check if you've bought frozen fruit from Whole Foods. Their 365 organic tropical fruit medley, their organic pineapple chunks, their organic whole strawberries, organic sliced strawberries and bananas, organic blackberries, distributed to select stores throughout the U.S. between November 1st, 2022 and June 21st, 2023.
At Trader Joe's, you'll want to take a look at Trader Joe's Organic Tropical Fruit Blend, distributed from March 28th, 2023 to April 11th, 2023.
I'm going to link to this article in the show notes so you can check all the states so that we're not listing all the states with each retailer. Also, Target, their Good and Gather Organic Cherries and Berries Fruit Blend, Good and Gather Dark Sweet Whole Pitted Cherries, the Good and Gather Mango Strawberry Blend, their Mixed Fruit Blend, Mango Chunks, Blueberries, Triple Berry Blend, distributed nationwide from October 14th, 2022 to May 22nd, 2023. I'm kind of amazed at how far back this goes.
Yeah, we're looking about an 8-month span.
Yeah, and I guess with frozen things,
yeah,
that'll happen.
That makes sense. From Aldi, you'll want to look at their Season's Choice Tropical Blend, distributed from October 11th, 2022 to May 22nd, 2023. And from AWG, Associated Wholesale Grocers, you'll want to check out the Best Choice Pitted Red Tart Cherries, unsweetened. And those were distributed between April 5th, 2023 and May 4th. 2023. A good thing to notice is that to date there have been no illnesses associated with this voluntary recall.
Yeah, and the article from the FDA does include all of the lot numbers and best by dates and all that. So we'll include it, like I said, in the show notes. So if you want to check it and then check your freezers to make sure you don't have any of this stuff.
Right. Now, consumers are urged to check their freezers for the recalled products, not to consume it, and either discard the product or return it to the store for a full refund. All other Sunrise Growers products that have different lot codes or best buy dates are not affected by this recall. The affected retail customers have been notified of this recall and instructed to remove any recalled product from retail store shelves and inventories.
Yeah, so you should be okay buying frozen fruit at any of those locations because they should have removed anything that was recalled from the shelves.
Exactly.
We also have an update. I don't know if you remember, a few episodes back, we talked about some animal activists in Canada that were charged with numerous things. They were charged with criminal conspiracy to disrupt. What else were they charged with?
Breaking and entering.
Yeah, breaking and entering.
And obstruction. So this is the Porgreg pig trial that was taking place in Quebec on June 20th. Jenny McQueen and 10 other activists were found guilty of breaking and entering and obstruction for entering the Porgreg pig facility and exposing the horrendous conditions within. 5 of them, including Jenny, were sentenced with criminal records, 2 years probation, 100 hours of community service, and a few $100s in fines. 6 were released with undisclosed conditions, but no criminal charges. All of them are considering an appeal. The facility was shut down due to their actions, but no charges were ever brought up on the owners and operators. Jenny's only regret is that they were unable to liberate any of the pigs.
Yeah, that's kind of a bad turnout there. We were hoping that they would be
acquitted.
Yeah, acquitted of all those charges, but apparently some of them are going to have a permanent record because of their actions.
Yes, it seems that way.
Yeah.
I am glad to see that no one has been given jail time of any kind.
Yeah, no jail time. Just
That's
probation.
Wonderful. So just probation and community service. So that's a positive right there. But yes, we were hoping that with the victories in some other animal rescue cases in recent months, that the Poor Greg group would also be found, would also be cleared of their charges. And unfortunately, that just did not happen.
Yeah. And funny enough, I mean, they didn't take anything or break anything, or all they did was expose the terrible and horrendous conditions that were taking place inside of this facility.
Yeah.
That's all they did.
Yes.
So, and like Sam said, no charges have been brought up against the people who operated that facility. It has shut down, but, you know, where's the justice? Where's the justice?
Well, if you're talking about justice according to law,
there is none.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, but the laws are set up to favor the industries that are putting animals in these horrendous conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's why there are ag-gag laws. That's why there are hamburger laws.
Yeah.
It's all of those things. So the law is not on the activists' side.
No, absolutely not.
No, it's not. And so as unfortunate as this verdict is, it's not terribly surprising.
No, it's not. And I would just like to thank Jenny McQueen and all the other activists involved in that action for everything that they've done.
Absolutely.
And for the fact that they continue their activism.
Yes.
Even though they now have criminal records.
Absolutely. And I would say that to every other activist in the world who is out there putting forward the right to rescue and doing the work to expose the conditions that animals are kept in.
Yeah. Hey.
Yes.
This Friday is our live vegan trivia event. It is finally here.
There we go.
If you are in the Buffalo area and would like to take part in the live vegan trivia event, there are still openings for teams. And there's a link in the show notes if you want to get a team ticket and get your team together and come and play some trivia with us, because it's going to be fun.
If you're not feeling like buying a ticket on the interwebs, however, you do not need a ticket ahead of time. You can just wander right on down to the Vegan Center on the day of the event and purchase a ticket there. And if you're not feeling like playing trivia, but you want to see what kind of shenanigans we get up to, you can always come in as an observer.
You can. I think it's like $5 or something if you just want to be part of the
something like that
spectator crowd.
And if you want to be part of the spectator crowd, please know that the delicious yummies that are going to be provided will be available to you as well.
Yeah, we're going to have some vegan deli snacks from Veganetti's.
So cool.
Yep, and there'll be some beverages and snacks.
Yeah,
snack type stuff. So.
Yeah.
So it's this Friday, June 30th from 6 to 9 at the Vegan Center in Tonawanda, New York.
Yeah, so come on down. We'd love to see you.
We would. Hey, that brings us to our recipe of the week.
It does. And this week is a listener recipe.
It's a special listener recipe from a special listener.
And who might that be?
This week's listener recipe comes to us from Linda Soto, who just happens to be my sister.
Well, there you go.
And she shared with us her mushroom lentil walnut burgers, which we just had today for lunch.
We did.
And they are fantastic.
They really are. I love them.
We've had a lot of lentil walnut burgers. Mm-hmm. These have a couple of extra things that just super boost the umami. Well, number one, lots of mushrooms.
Yeah.
An entire pound of cremini mushrooms, diced small. And the addition of red wine.
Yes.
Which also helps to super boost that umami flavor.
It really does.
They're very meaty. Both in texture and in flavor. And they hold together really well.
Yes, they do.
And they're fantastic.
They really are. I love the flavor on these. I love the texture on these. I got some nice big chunks of walnut in mine.
That was my fault. I think I got a little lazy with my chopping of the walnut.
It's not about fault. I enjoyed the nice big chunks of walnut.
Yeah.
For some reason, it was like all of a sudden, I'm eating burgers. Like, ooh, walnut. Yeah, bonus walnut. So yeah, I really did love these. And Christine dressed the burgers up on some really nice buns with some avocado, tomato, some romaine lettuce, and some veganese. Veganese, yeah. So they were really just lovely. And she served it with a beautiful dill heavy coleslaw, which is how I like my slaw.
Super. I think the dill got away from me.
It was awesome.
It was very dilly.
I loved it.
But yeah, these are really good. And the recipe makes so much. I made like 5 burgers, and then I decided not to make the entire recipe into burgers. That way it's loose and we can do other things with it. Like we can have tacos with it.
Or burritos, or put it on top of a salad or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's smart.
So we now have extra burgers and an entire container full of the mixture ready to go for another couple of meals.
I was going to say, we've got meals for the week now.
We do. We're set.
Cool.
Yeah. So thank you, Linda, for submitting that recipe. It's definitely a good one.
Yeah, it is. Although I have to say, next time we come around to a listener recipe, it has to not be a member of our family.
Oh, it won't be?
Because
the next one won't be.
Because, the last listener was my mom.
Yeah, it just kind of turned out.
Now it's your sister.
It just kind of turned out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't want to hear or continue to hear about recipes from our family members, submit your vegan recipe. At compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram your favorite vegan recipes.
Yes. And that's true. We do know that the next listener recipe is not from a member of our family.
No, I'm excited for the next one, but we have to wait, 3 weeks?
Yes, because we will have a From Our Vegan Kitchen and a cookbook challenge.
Yes, because of our recipe rotation now.
Yes.
It will be a few weeks before
it's become a very high-tech thing with the recipe rotation, and, it's very complicated.
It's not really complicated. I do have to put on the calendar so I remember what we're doing. But, yeah, I don't think it's complicated. So let's move on to our noteworthy section.
Sure thing. So noteworthy this week is that Canada... Oh, Canada. We do love Canada. Canada.
Home and native land.
I mean, it's not actually, but we
True
can dream.
Patriot love.
Yeah. So for the Canadians out there, we feel you. Canada is moving to ban animal toxicity testing.
This is good news.
This is great news.
Yeah.
So Canada is on the verge of banning toxicity testing on animals, a method often used in labs to assess chemical harm on creatures like dogs, mice, pigs, fish, and rabbits before transitioning to human trials. Toxicity tests, while illuminating potential risks for humans, subject animals to much higher chemical exposure levels, causing undue suffering. The proposed ban marks a significant shift towards more humane scientific practices, aligning Canada with over 40 other countries that have prohibited certain forms of animal testing.
Yeah, and I do believe that I just read today that bill has gone through.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So good news for the animals in Canada.
That is beautiful. So the much anticipated Bill S5, known as the Strengthening Environmental Protection for a Healthier Canada Act, received royal assent on June 13th, setting a roadmap to gradually eliminate toxicity testing on animals in the country. According to Caitlin Mitchell, who is the Director of Legal Advocacy for Animal Justice Canada, this move will align us with regions like the U.S. and the EU, who have already implemented robust legal tools to put an end to animal toxicity testing.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you, Canada.
Indeed. Once again, thank you, Canada.
Yeah, some good news out of Canada.
Yes.
And that brings us to our main topic. Our main topic this week is cognitive dissonance and the psychology of an omnivore, aka the meat paradox.
Yes.
So I guess first off, we should talk about what is cognitive dissonance.
As human beings, we strive to make decisions that are consistent and in line with our general values.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes because we are humans and are inherently imperfect and inconsistent, we still go rogue and behave in a way that is perhaps not consistent with our values. Now, when this happens, we have a tendency to then feel mental distress. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're attempting to maintain a healthy diet and you eat a donut, you may feel some mental distress because you know that that donut is not healthy and is therefore not aligned with your desire to maintain a healthy diet.
Yeah.
Or let's say you're attempting to quit smoking, which we have both done.
Yeah.
But there's just a day where you sneak a cigarette,
right,
even though you know you're attempting to stop. That would probably cause some mental distress. Mm-hmm. It is this hint of distress that psychologists refer to as cognitive dissonance, where a psychic tension between our general values and our behavior, when there's a disconnect there, when that tension must be resolved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. So, yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about cognitive dissonance and veganism, or really omnivoreism. Is that a word?
It can be. Why not?
Yeah, because I think it might be the thing that when vegans are around people who aren't vegan and somebody finds out that they're vegan, a lot of times you get this defensive reaction.
It definitely happens.
And a lot of that is the result of this kind of psychic stress that's happening with cognitive dissonance.
Right. So what is then the solution to cognitive dissonance or to the meat paradox? Well, the answer is we either have to change our behavior or we have to change our beliefs. So we either justify why we have to eat meat, or we turn vegan, vegetarian, or pescatarian, essentially whatever suits our moral compass.
Right.
So, if you are someone who believes that cows and chickens and other land animals should not be subjected to the torture that they undergo in order to be food animals, you might choose to be vegetarian or pescatarian. If you think all animals are worthy of, living their lives to their fullest without harm or subjugation, then vegan is the way to go.
Yeah. So there's this article from a website called popnero.com, which has a lot of really interesting psychology and
they're a cool site.
Yeah, neuroscience kind of stuff. And they said this is their what they're talking about here is the psychology behind someone's carnivore diet. They say we tend to separate our values from our own actions, like Sam was saying. Here are simple questions to prove this. Do you think animal torture is cruel? Do you eat factory farmed meat? The odds are you disagree with animal cruelty, yet still you eat meat reared in horrible conditions. This psychological conflict between your preference for gorging on meat and moral response to an animal suffering is what psychologists call the meat paradox. In short, we don't want to inflict pain on animals, but we still like to eat meat anyway. The paradox in the meat paradox is that moral nature holds meat eaters at gunpoint with the question, how can I be a good person and still eat meat? It works like this. There are two general systems our brain bases its moral decisions on. The first system is emotional, quick, and intuitive. The second is rational, effortful, and explicit. The difference between them can be seen based on your action in the classic trolley car problem. Are you familiar with the trolley car problem?
I am. In the classic trolley car problem, you're confronted with a choice. 5 people are tied to the train tracks on which a train is steering towards. You are standing on a bridge with a person in front of you. The only way to save those 5 people on the tracks is if you push the person in front of you to fall on the tracks to stop the incoming train.
Right.
So your brain's first system relies on its emotional center, the limbic structures. This response comes on quickly, reflecting your emotional reaction. It would be the one to tell you not to push the person because it's just wrong.
Yeah. Your brain's second system is situated right above your eyes. Neuroscientists call this the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, known as the CEO of your actions. Unlike your emotional center, your brain's CEO constantly assesses the rationality behind your choices and would argue that 5 lives are worth more than 1 life, driving you to push the person.
In the case of veganism, acknowledging that you're sparing the suffering of an animal should outweigh the temporary delight of eating a steak. Our two systems are always in battle every time we're confronted with a moral question. The prize for the winner? Merely getting to answer the question. So to cope with our carnivorousness, we suppress the knowledge that animals can suffer. In a study in which one group were given nuts to eat and the other was given beef, the beef group was asked to consider the cow's suffering. To no one's surprise, they assessed the cow's suffering as being lower than the group who ate nuts did.
Right. In order to rectify that in their brain, right?
Exactly. So the arguments of, oh, well, fish don't feel pain, or it's biblical. Animals are meant to be used as food for humans.
Yeah.
Or, I can't come up with any other good ones. But, those arguments are meant to, in some way, shape, or form, level out or, balance the cognitive dissonance that's going on in our brains when confronted with the question of, you say you love animals, yet by eating meat, you subject animals to this kind of treatment.
Right. To make ourselves feel good about our decisions to eat meat, companies use many tricks to numb our feelings towards animal suffering. And they start with the neuromarketing behind the packaging. So what is neuromarketing? It's the study of how the brain is influenced by marketing and consumerism.
And this starts out in a very, very simple way. Okay, it's kind of like saying you can separate the art from the artist. It's also meaning that you can separate the meat from the animal. This is exactly why when you are purchasing animal products in the grocery store, it's called veal. It's not called baby calf.
Right.
It's not called cow. It's called beef. Mm-hmm. It's not called pig. It's called bacon. Now, chicken is an odd outlier on this. Chicken is, in fact, chicken.
Apparently, the marketers have not come up with a word to call chicken that isn't the actual name of the animal.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, but so chicken is the outlier.
Yeah.
But once these animals are chopped up in pieces unrecognizable to the animal that it came from, they are packaged and personified with jolly cartoon characters, names that remove the product from the animal it came from.
So that omnivores can make that disconnect.
Yes.
And they don't feel bad about buying it.
No.
Today, more and more people are introducing plant-based foods into their diets, though the meat substitute market is relatively small. It's expected to grow 2 billion more from 4.65 billion in 5 years, making veganism the fastest growing lifestyle movement in Europe and the U.S.
Now, plant-based meat companies Beyond Meat and Meatless already produce low-cost vegan chicken wings, burgers, and sausages. And, of course, we have to throw Impossible in with this as well. Beyond Meat has been so successful that it's been listed on the stock market with post-IPO gains up by 734%.
Yeah. Now, this is a 2019 article. I can tell you that Beyond stock is not doing that good now.
Okay.
There's definitely, I think the bubble has burst.
Well, that happens. That happens with a lot of IPOs.
Yeah.
They skyrocket and then things settle down. So what it comes down to really is that there's only one way out of this moral inconsistency, and that is to face conversations about humanity, accept our own hypocrisies, to look at the foundation of our underlying guilty pleasures and attempt to rebuild them. Just like Luke Skywalker had to choose a side, you have to choose too. And as Master Yoda would say, choose wisely you must. And remember, avocado salad, the green side has.
That was really good.
It's really not. I'm not a good Yoda.
Well, I had no idea that you could even do a Yoda. I thought that was pretty well done. Yeah, he's somewhere between Grover from Sesame Street and Kermit the Frog.
But he's also got a raspy component in there that I can do one or the other. I can't seem to get them both at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, kudos for trying.
Thank you.
I thought it was pretty well done.
Yes. So you can market this episode with Sam does a bad Yoda impression.
Yeah. When I was doing the research for this cognitive dissonance stuff, I came across a word that I had never heard before. Have you heard of the word acrasia before?
No, that's new to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the textbook definition of acrasia is the state of mind in which someone acts against their better judgment through a weakness of will. And so so there is this really long, very in-depth paper on acrasia and the meat paradox. But I thought what was interesting, aside from the fact that I had never heard this word acrasia before.
I haven't either. Yeah, this is brand new. So acrasia refers to a situation where one believes in a fact or value X and yet acts against that fact or value. The paper uses the term omnivores acrasia to denote a state where one believes in the value of animal well-being and nonetheless consumes products which have caused animal suffering. The claim of the paper is that understanding of the meat paradox can be significantly broadened with the use of philosophical takes on acrasia, which underline notions such as moral reason and virtue. I'm going to have to read this.
Yeah, it's a really
I have not had
interesting paper.
I'm really excited about this, actually.
Yeah, and I'll link to the paper. It comes from the National Library of Medicine. And the title of the paper is The Meat Paradox, Omnivores, Acrasia, and Animal Ethics.
And this was written by Elisa Altola.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting philosophical questions in this paper.
I do love philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the gentleman that was presenting at the Humane Hoax Conference that I attended.
Uh-huh.
And I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, but I can't. But he was a professor of philosophy, and he taught kind of really what this paper is talking about. So, I like to really in-depth read this paper. I just kind of skimmed it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of really interesting philosophical stuff going on.
Oh, well, I'll definitely be giving this a good read. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll share it in the show notes if you want to peruse this very interesting paper that talks about meat eating and animal rights and the paradox that goes on in your brain.
Yes.
In people's brains when they think about the animals that their food is coming from.
That's right.
So
that sounds great.
I enjoyed researching this, and I think we could do multiple episodes on this subject alone.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
It's very large, this subject.
And also, I think in a future episode, I would like to delve a little more deeply into the neuromarketing, because that's also super interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the kind of imagery that companies will use to not only get your brain to look at products in a positive way, but to get you to disconnect to where those products come from.
It's been happening to us all of our lives, especially with the advent of television.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all Saturday morning cartoons are.
Yeah. And now with social media and the ad feeds that are just, you're constantly being barraged with if you're on the internet at all.
Absolutely.
It's just you're nonstop being bombarded with neuromarketing.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And I think we'll dive into that a little bit more deeply in a future episode.
I would thoroughly enjoy that.
Do you have anything else to say about cognitive dissonance? Have you experienced cognitive dissonance from people in your own circle?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually have one student in particular who, will say how much they, love animals and love their dog and all of this. But Sam, I just got to have my chicken wings.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're smart enough to know But for a lot of people, you just can't get it to click. Where it's like, I love animals, but I'm going to continue eating them, you know?
Well, and the thing is, it's how people are conditioned.
It's totally conditioning. When I've seen tons of videos of children who are eating animal products, but have no idea where they've come from. And when they find out, they're terribly upset and horrified at the fact that they're eating, one of the cute little farm animals that they read about in all their books and they see on TV and, in cartoons or whatever, that they never put it together.
Right.
But then the parents justify it, like, oh, well, some animals we eat and some animals,
And it's certainly not just parents justifying it.
Well, the world in general, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the medical community. It's the advertising community. It's, just kind of the global general wisdom, it's just because that's the way it is.
Yeah, and I think that almost every adult, if you ask them, can remember a time in their youth when either they can remember when they realized that what they were eating was animals, or they can remember not liking animal flesh.
Oh, I certainly do.
And it just goes to show that we are not programmed to eat animals.
No.
We're conditioned to accept it.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. We're not naturally wired to eat animals.
Yeah.
I know I was the kid who would always eat whatever starch was on the plate, would always eat all of the vegetables without complaint, but most of the time I didn't want the meat.
Yeah, me neither.
And I find it really interesting that obviously somewhere along the way I got over that in some way, shape, or form and began eating meat, without any real complaint or any real thought. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember that turning point.
Yeah, I don't either.
Where meat stopped being gross and started becoming something I ate on a regular basis and was willing to eat on a regular basis.
Right.
I don't remember that turning point.
I don't either.
I certainly remember the turning point in the other direction.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I'm very, very glad that turning point came along.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But, I don't blame anyone for their cognitive dissonance. And
no.
I don't blame anyone for making the choices that they make.
Yeah, which is why I found that the use of the word acrasia interesting in this context, because if the textbook definition of acrasia is doing something that doesn't align with your morals or whatever because of a weakness of will.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because that is essentially, if I'm acting against my ethics or my moral compass and I can't come up with a reason that I have to, I will die if I don't. This terrible thing will happen if I don't act in this way. Then, yes, it is a weakness of will.
Yeah, but I don't think any non-vegan would agree that it's a weakness of will.
Probably not.
To eat animals. I think they do exactly what you were saying, that they come up with reasons why they have to.
Right.
Like, I have low iron, or I can't get B12 any other way. I have an absorption issue.
I was once told by a doctor that I needed animal protein every day.
Yeah. Because of B12 and
because of just about
for the
anything.
protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't get enough protein if I don't eat animals.
Right.
There's all of those. I mean, I'll call them excuses. I think a lot of people that say those things wholeheartedly believe them.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that, like I said, I don't think those people would ever agree that the reason they eat meat is because they lack the willpower to not eat meat.
Well, probably not. It's just, a smoker doesn't like to hear that they haven't quit smoking because they don't have the will to do it.
Right.
Or you can't stay on a diet because you don't have the will to stay away from potato chips or candy.
Right. I like potato chips. I like potato chips.
I know you do. And I like candy. So, There we go.
Yeah. Anyway.
Bring on the ginger chews is all I have to say.
Anyway, there's a lot more to unpack, I think, and to explore where cognitive dissonance and veganism is concerned.
Oh, so much.
And I'm going to keep researching because there's all kinds of different angles. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting to talk about.
Well, I've got a stack of books that would give you all kinds of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get on that.
Okay.
Would you like to read one of our 72 reasons to be vegan? And I know they're not ours.
They're not ours.
No.
These reasons come from Jean Stone and Kathy Freston in their wonderful book, 72 Reasons to be Vegan, Why Plant-Based, Why Now? And this week we are going with reason number 63, which is that dogs and cats aren't the only loving animals. Did you know that some countries raise and slaughter dogs for dinner? Yeah. Though it's quite common in some cultures, it may be horrifying to think that an animal you consider to be a faithful companion could suffer the fate of a food animal. In the United States, we are told from a young age that cows and chickens are brought into this world to be food. Dogs and cats are not. But when you think about it, why does the thought of eating a cow make our mouths water, but the thought of eating a dog make us want to throw up? What is the difference, truly, between your family dog who sleeps at the foot of your bed and the cow who ends up on your dinner plate? Is one less emotional than the other? Is one cuter, more entertaining? Does one deserve to live in peace while the other is led down a dark, noisy tunnel to slaughter? It's all really just a matter of how we're socialized to believe it's okay to eat one animal but not the other. As Dr. Melanie Joy, author of Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows, says, we send one species to the butcher and give our love and kindness to another, apparently for no other reason than because it's the way things are. When our attitudes and behaviors towards animals are so inconsistent, and this inconsistency is so unexamined, we can safely say we have been fed absurdities. It is absurd that we eat pigs and love dogs and don't even know why. Many of us spend long minutes in the aisle of the drugstore mulling over what toothpaste to buy, yet most of us don't spend any time at all thinking about what species of animal we eat and why. Our choices as consumers drive an industry that kills 10 billion animals per year in the United States alone. All animals feel. They love. They trust. They fear. They connect, they worry, they grieve, they look for comfort. They have unique and interesting personalities. They don't want to die. They do everything they can to avoid pain. Every last one of them, whether dog or cat or cow or chicken or goat or lamb or human, every last one of them is capable of joy and pain. Some of us are smarter than others, some larger, some more fierce, some more neurotic and needy. A good thought experiment is to just think for a minute before you eat an animal food. Does my taste for this dish override what happened to this one animal on my plate? Am I at peace with what she or he went through?
Well, that's perfect, considering what we were just talking about.
I try to do that.
Yeah. You do. You weave them in.
I do. I try to weave them in.
Seamlessly.
Yeah. It's, take some thought.
Yeah, I think that's a really good reason of the 72 reasons.
Well, I mean, for us at least, that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the reason is the animals.
Yeah. So many of the reasons in that book, you can say that. It's like, well, this should be the reason.
Yeah.
But there's 71 more. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we link to that book in the show notes if you're interested in maybe every day. If you're a new vegan, it might come in handy to just open that book, like you would like like one of those books that has like a positive saying of the day or something like that.
Yeah. Those small inspirational books.
Yeah. And just open it up to whatever random page and read one of the reasons. Hey, we've reached your favorite part of the show, which is, one of my favorite parts of the show also. Yeah, that means it's time for our listener shout out. Woohoo!
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's listener shout out goes to Shirley2510, More Than Lettuce, on Instagram. Shirley is based in Belgium, is an aspiring vegan chef, an animal activist, and a dog mom to an adorable beagle. Thank you so much for listening, Shirley, and for all you do for the vegan movement.
Yeah, contact us with your t-shirt size and your address so we can send you a Compassion and Cucumbers swag bag, and it will be our very first swag bag that goes to Belgium.
Nice.
I think I'm looking forward to it.
That is great.
I'm really hoping that Shirley gives me her t-shirt size and her address so that I can send her stuff.
You just really want to send things to Belgium?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I support that.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, Shirley. You can send that t-shirt size and address to our email at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or just DM us on Instagram.
Indeed you can. And now for housekeeping.
Time to keep that house. Like I was saying earlier in the episode, we want to try your favorite vegan recipes. And we want to include them in our listener recipe segment. So email or DM us the vegan meals you love to make. And send us the recipe so we can try it.
If you want to keep up to date on where we are and what we're doing, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our newsletter, and our Patreon. All of the links are in the show notes. You can also follow us on Happy Cow. You can find Christine at Compassion and Cucumbers, and you can find me at C&C Vegan.
And we are currently holding a fundraiser for Food Empowerment Project at our Buy Me a Coffee. That's at buymeacoffee.com/cucumbers. Food Empowerment Project seeks to create a more just and sustainable world by recognizing the power of one's food choices. They encourage healthy food choices that reflect a more compassionate society by spotlighting the abuse of animals on farms, the depletion of our natural resources, unfair working conditions for produce workers, and the unavailability of healthy foods in low-income areas.
Want to get a listener shout out just like Shirley did today? Go right ahead and send us a DM or email letting us know you listen and tell us a little bit about yourself.
And follow Sam's Etsy site at Cucumber Craftworks on Etsy. Take a look at her beautiful hand-knit scarves, her handmade jewelry, and bead art. It's all vegan and made with tons and tons of love.
If it allows, go ahead and leave us a review on your podcast app. And if it doesn't allow you to leave a review, I have a feeling there might be a thing they allow you to do. Like you can rate with a certain number of sparkly things.
Sparkly things.
Yeah, sparkly things that we call stars. And Christine always likes to get 5 of them.
5 is my favorite number of stars.
There you go.
Yep. Share the show with a friend or family member that you think would enjoy what we do. That is the easiest way for us to spread the word about our podcast, is for you to spread the word about our podcast.
And it costs you nothing at all.
No.
And finally, please, if you can, join the AFA Vegan Voter Hub and give to them if you are able. The Agriculture Fairness Alliance is lobbying on our behalf so that our vegan voices are heard. If you want to make real change in the upcoming farm bill, join the Vegan Voter Hub.
You've just listened to episode 93 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, and there's nothing left to say but...
where cukes and compassion are always the fashion on the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week.
We'll talk to you guys next Tuesday.
We love you.
We love you. Bye.
The end.
It wasn't great. It always has to be a little more goofy like this. It's somewhere between... I can't get it raspy and goofy at the same time. Choose wisely, you must. And remember, avocado salad, the green side has.
Do you want to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast? Well, you can do that by joining our Patreon page. We have 3 different levels of support, and all 3 come with their own special bonuses. Hey, you can support the podcast and get yourself some really cool merch. All the links and deets are in the show notes. We'll catch you next week on the next episode of Compassion and Cucumbers.